Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City Winkler's Candidates Forum. My name is Wendell Ewart, and I'm honored to serve as your moderator for tonight. Thank you for being here today and tuning in online. This event is all about connecting as a community and giving you the challenge to hear directly from the people who are stepping up to represent us. Your presence tonight shows how much you care about the future of Winkler and what makes this forum like this so important. To our candidates, thank you for stepping forward to serve. Running for office is no small feat. It requires passion, resilience, and a true commitment for making a difference. Your willingness to put your vision forward and engage with the community is commendable. And to everyone in the audience, online and here, thank you for taking the time to join us. Whether you're here to learn more, ask questions, or just be part of the conversation, your participation is what keeps our community strong and our democracy thriving. Tonight, we're aiming for an open, respectful dialogue. We want to hear ideas, tackle important issues, and give everyone a fair chance to be heard. Let's keep things constructive and focused on what really matters, making Winkler the best it can be. Let's open with O Canada, and then we'll get into more of tonight's format. Okay, tonight's format is going to include the opportunity for each candidate to share why they are passionate about sitting on City Council, and it'll give the listeners the opportunity to ask questions of our candidates. Our goal is to provide each candidate with an equal opportunity to share their views and answer your questions. So, okay, let's get started. So we're going to start off, I'm going to read a bio from each of the candidates. This is a bio that was written by them. And then once I'm done the first bio, and we'll start with Dustin. Once I'm done Dustin's bio, he will have 2 minutes to respond, and then we'll move to Pam and then to Ryan. Once we're done that, then we'll get into the question and answer period. On the question and answer period, the format tonight's going to be each candidate will have the opportunity to answer any of the questions that are presented. They will have 1 minute to respond to their questions, and then all three of them can respond accordingly. Okay, let's start with Dustin. I've been a resident of Winkler my entire life, the last 18 years with my wife, Crystal. I graduated from GVC, and for the past 20 years, I've been employed at Lode King Industries. I'm currently on the board of directors for the Winkler Flyers, and just last month was elected as chairperson for the Manitoba Citizens on Patrol Program Board. I have been a COPP volunteer in Winkler for 22 years. I enjoy keeping up to date on local news and events. During my campaign, I have enjoyed speaking to lots of city residents. It's been nice to hear, it's been nice to hear the many good comments and success stories. However, it's also eye-opening to hear the challenges that some people face. As a councillor, I think it's important to be approachable, easygoing, and willing to listen. Nobody knows our city better than the residents that live here. There's lots of great ideas around to improve our already great city. We just need to be willing to listen to what people have to say. I am driven to put in time and effort that's required to do a good job as a councillor, and I ask that you consider voting for me on December 12th. I would love to hear from you during this campaign period. Feel free to contact me to discuss the issues that are important to you. Go ahead, Dustin.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to come listen to us candidates and taking interest in the future of our city. We are so fortunate to live in a community that is thriving in so many ways. Our protective services are top-notch and are envied by many other communities. You can see new houses going up in many different areas of the city. New businesses are seeing the potential here and are opening up shop. Small businesses continue to succeed and do well. There's so much good that we can see just by looking around our city. However, there's still lots of work to do. Projects that are in the works need to be seen through till the end. These include the on-demand public transit study that is about to begin, the Centennial Arena renovation, the water treatment plant expansion, and the regional wastewater treatment facility, just to name a few. Our population rose 25% in the last decade, and housing continues to be a key issue. I think the city has done a great job of addressing this and stress that continued efforts are equally as important. It's important to continue working with our neighbors to create regional partnerships. This allows us to not only find efficiencies and savings, but also build better relationships that help us all succeed. These are the things I feel important for the city to complete as we plan for future growth, and I would love to help plan, prepare, and see these through till the end. For myself, running for City Council, I've been presenting 3 platform attributes that I believe I can bring to the table. These are the exact same as the 22 election, simply because I have not changed as a person or how I do things. These are able, accountable, and trustworthy. To be able, we must have the skills, dedication, and willingness to take a task and complete it. To be accountable, we must be responsible as a member of council and be able to justify our actions and our decisions. And finally, to be trustworthy, we must be honest and truthful while carrying out our duties. These are simple definitions, yet attributes I feel are important as I run for City Council. On December 12th, I ask for your vote and your support. Thank you.
Thanks, Dustin.
Thank you.
Okay, Pam will be next. Pam Fedek, nee Waldner, spent her early years on a poultry farm north of Winkler and later in acreage in the Winkler-Morden corridor, attending Winkler Elementary School from K to 8 and then Garden Valley Collegiate. She grew up working in her parents' stop-and-go convenience store on the corner of Main and Mountain Avenue before pursuing her career in broadcasting at Winkler's CKMW Radio, where she started on-air evenings and weekends and operating Toronto Blue Jays game in 1996. She moved into news in 2001 and has extensively covered local and regional municipal politics and provincial news, in addition to community events, sports, and more. She left radio earlier this year to pursue new opportunities. Pam is the mother of 4 children, ages 12 to 21, and has been married to Jonathan for 25 years, who has been the zone cafeteria manager at Garden Valley Collegiate for the past decade, and prior to that, a local chef. They are members of the Maranatha Christian Fellowship. She's an avid volunteer, donating her time doing patient support in chemotherapy department at Boundary Trails Health Center following her mother's death from endometrial cancer in 2021. Pam served as the fundraising chair for the Winkler Figure Skating Club from 2014 to 18 and also supports other causes including GBSD Grad and the Smile Cookie Program, among other initiatives her kids are involved in. She's also a member of the local chapters of both Toastmasters International and TOPS Club. After years of reporting on municipal events, Pam is ready to go to work for her community to ensure a future built on sustainability, good asset management and planning, and the rural values she grew up with. Pam, over to you.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator, each citizen tuning in online, our audience, media, fellow candidates, and Winkler and District Chamber of Commerce. I have always been proud to say I grew up in an area that respects rural values. To me, that means having a safe place to live, work, grow, and play. And I want that for the future for my kids and for all of Winkler's citizens. I also see the extreme value in diversity, growth, and forward thinking, all these things that already exist in our beautiful community. What are my priorities? I want to work to make Winkler an attractive place to recruit more talent from the industrial and healthcare sectors, including some of the gaps in recreation. Improve lighting and accessibility across the city and its facilities to accommodate residents of all ages and ability to ensure their safety. I'll work in conjunction with the Winkler and District Healthcare Board to ensure Winkler citizens have the best access to health services. Work in conjunction with local poverty reduction groups to make Winkler livable for all citizens and close the class divide so our people are thriving and not just surviving. As a news reporter at Golden West Radio for more than 20 years, I was steeped in many areas of the community and region. I attended many council meetings and other community events and had to delve carefully into the details of many projects to report on them accurately. This is work I found fascinating, and it taught me so much. I have a very good understanding of how programs and agencies work together and the determination and innovation that has built many projects in our city. If elected on December 12th, I'll be ready to hit the ground running. I am ready to serve, work hard for you, bend my ear to you, and help Winkler continue to thrive long into the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. Okay, Ryan. I was born and raised in Southern Ontario, but have an association with the Winkler area all my life. My grandparents lived in the area, and when we would visit in the summer, I fondly remember coming to Winkler to shop and visit relatives here. Out of high school, I moved to Winkler to study at Winkler Bible Institute for 2 years, and then moved here for good almost 24 years ago when I married my wife Vanessa, who is from Winkler. We have 2 children who attend elementary and high school in Winkler and a dog. We enjoy our time hiking, golfing, and traveling. I've worked in accounting for 20 years in the for-profit business and not-for-profits, including 10 years as the Chief Financial Officer for Eden Healthcare Services. This is where I developed my passion for affordable housing, having seen firsthand the need for this community and throughout Manitoba. I've been involved in the Winkler Affordable Housing Board, now Central Community Homes, as a treasurer for almost 10 years, and was involved provincially on the Manitoba Not-for-Profit Housing Board as a director for 2 terms. I also worked extensively with various departments in government, including health, families, housing, addiction, and homelessness. I have a strong commitment to being involved in the community and have served on other boards such as the Winkler and District Healthcare Board, Winkler and District Chamber of Commerce, including being the president for 3 years, and Central Station, to name a few. For the last 4+ years, I've been the executive director of the Buhler Active Living Center, which is a seniors 55+ community in downtown Winkler. Together with our partners in the building, we strive to provide a healthy environment with activities and supports that help our seniors thrive in community. I believe in giving back to the community, and I believe that I would bring a unique perspective to council as we work together to meet the current and future needs of our wonderful city. Over to you, Ryan.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Moderator, invited guests, and those of you watching online. I first want to acknowledge the many years of service that Don Fair gave to this community and wish Kathy and their family all the best in this difficult time. As I put my name forward for council, I've had a number of people ask me, why are you running? I've thought about that question many times over the years, as council has been something that has interested me. 3 attributes I think would make a good councillor are a good listener, as council works on behalf of the residents of the community, a problem solver, as there will always be challenges that come up that will need creative solutions, and someone that is sincere in their desire to keep upgrading our wonderful community. Through my years of connecting and reporting to the 6 boards of Eden, my work with Central Station, my passion for Winkler Affordable Housing, now Central Community Homes, my work with the Manitoba Not-for-Profit Housing Association, and my work with Buhler Active Living Center, I'm passionate about affordable housing for families, individuals, and seniors. I also have been the treasurer for most of these boards and understand having fiscally responsible budgets and a common sense approach to what we can afford to do. Winkler is an amazing community founded on hard work, solid principles, and caring for our neighbors. I am committed to advocating for the needs of Winklerites. Transparency and accountability are at the forefront of my leadership with open communication. Together, let's build a brighter future for all that call Winkler their home. My name is Ryan Hildebrand, and I look forward to earning your vote.
Thanks, Ryan. Okay, let's get into some questions. So I've got a few questions to get us started, and Tanya's looking for questions. You can submit your questions online as well, and we'll try to get them to the candidates as soon as possible. Okay, we're going to start with an easy one. All of you touched on this a little bit during your speech, but I'm going to narrow it down a little bit. Starting with Pam. So we started with Dustin, just so people understand how we're doing this. We started with Dustin on the first question. Pam will start the second question, and then Ryan, and then we'll just work our way around. So, Pam, you can start if you want to answer this question. First question, what are your top priorities if elected? So if you're willing to answer, go ahead.
My top priorities would be to continue listening to council on the great projects that have already started, and work to see that they're, just involve myself in the process, and get my feet wet and hit the ground running, like I said, and just really learn the role, first of all. And for me, the poverty reduction strategy would be huge, absolutely. I live close to downtown Winkler, and I see a lot of need there in that area, and I think that would be something I would really like to involve myself with if elected on December 12th, is poverty reduction.
Thank you, Pam. Ryan?
Yeah, I think to echo some of the things that Pam was saying, I'm a part of the Poverty Reduction Strategy Committee. Obviously, that's something that I want to continue to work on, continue to grow that strategy out. I think, as I mentioned in my opening there, I'm also on the affordable housing group, or the Central Community Homes. I think, we all can see, how much a need that is in the community, especially with the amount of immigration that's happened. And so I think that's a priority. And then, like Pam said, we all don't know everything. I hate to admit that, but we don't. And so, getting out in the community, listening to what people have to say, and really kind of taking that feedback back to council.
Perfect, thank you, Ryan. Dustin, you have your card up, go ahead.
I kind of echo some of the comments already made. I think getting the feedback that we've heard now during the campaign would be important. We know the things that are working for people, the things that aren't working. Lots of suggestions out there from our city residents, and then just kind of get a feel for what is needed from council. So obviously there's some duties that are being taken care of now by other councillors, and just to kind of get a feel for what would would be expected of us, and kind of get our feet wet and just sort out what needs to be done for us.
Thanks, Dustin. Okay, let's shift gears a bit to economic development. So the question is, how do you plan to attract new businesses and support local entrepreneurs in Winkler? So if you're interested in answering, you can put your card up. Again, I'll repeat, and I should have also said earlier, if you want me to repeat the question again once it gets to your turn, I can gladly do that. So the question again was, how do you plan to attract new businesses and support local entrepreneurs in Winkler? Ryan, you got your card up, and you're next in line to start.
Sounds good. I think when we look at the city of Winkler, there's a number of things that can be done to kind of to attract new businesses in. I think getting the infrastructure in place so that when when new businesses want to come, we're ready for them, and so I think that's a priority. I think also, to attract new businesses, we also need workers, and so we need to work on attracting workers to the area as well. I think those are kind of the big things that I would see.
Thanks, Ryan. Dustin, you got your card up, so go ahead.
I would highlight some of the success stories. So look at some of the businesses that are here already, see what's working well for them, advertise those types of things. Also mention the different amenities that we have. So we have a lot of neat things here that there might not be in other areas down the road. So we'd be able to advertise those as well. And as Ryan mentioned, make sure we have infrastructure in place so that when these businesses are coming, that it's a nice streamline for them to join our community. Thank you.
Thanks, Dustin. Pam, did you want to answer? You didn't have your card up. You're good?
I'm good.
Okay. Okay, let's change topics again. Let's go to some public service and community well-being topics. With the increased use of such services as food banks and women's shelters, and an increased need for affordable housing, what are some of the things the city should do to support its most vulnerable? I can read that again. Seeing the increased use of such services as the food bank and women's shelter, and the increased need for affordable housing, what are some things the city should do to support its most vulnerable? So if you want to answer, put your card up, and we can start with Dustin. He's got his card up.
So I think some of the most important things are already happening. The project that the city started with the Head Start to a Home project, I think is super important. Helps people get their, owning a home for the first time. Also the affordable housing efforts that they've done with Central Station, the building going up on Main Street, that type of thing, to help look after people looking for apartments to rent. I think those are important. Obviously continuing to look after the food banks, stuff like that, make sure that we're working with them, see what they need, have representation there, and just make sure that they're well looked after as they look after our citizens. That's all.
Thanks, Dustin. Pam, you're up next. Do you want me to read the question again? Are you good?
If you could repeat the question.
Sure. Seeing the increased use of such services as the food bank and women's shelter, and the increased need for affordable housing, what are some things the city should do to support its most vulnerable?
I think there is a lot of great work already happening in that area. Continue to support those efforts and look to just continue to dive into those areas to see if there's any further resources that can be brought in, whether it's grants or just programs that can be tapped into. The building that's going up on Main Street is going to be a huge welcome when that is completed. And also, the Winkler and District, the food cupboard, just as long as I know that is run a lot by volunteers, to make sure that that is continue to be supported, so that those volunteers also don't get tired, because that is a lot of work also to keep up with. And got my red light there.
Thanks. Ryan, you got your card up?
You bet. I think the city has already started to help in some of these areas. They created the Winkler Affordable Housing Committee, which is now, again, Central Community Homes. That committee is doing some great work. Again, it takes way too long to get some of these projects done. I know that all of us would like them to move quicker. I think that there's things like the fact that Manitoba Hydro, it takes so long for them to get hookups to different housing that's already being created. I think with when we're talking about Genesis House and the food bank, those are issues that really involve 3 levels of government that need to be there. And so certainly leveraging the relationships that councillors already have, that the city has with ministers, and leveraging those relationships to help get those projects moving.
Thanks, Ryan. Okay, on a little bit on the same vein, next question is, how would you improve public safety and emergency services? How would you improve public safety and emergency services? So if you would like to answer, you can put your card up. Okay, Ryan, you get to start this time.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Yeah, obviously a strong police force, a strong emergency, when I think of emergency services, I'm thinking hospital, I'm thinking healthcare, those types of things as well. So obviously, I would support a strong police service here in Winkler, and I think we need to resource them. We need to talk to them, first of all, to figure out what they need, and resource them appropriately. As far as obviously working with the healthcare board, I've been a part of the healthcare board for a number of years, and so leveraging the relationships there to make sure that the service is as good as it can be. So.
Thank you, Ryan. Dustin, and I'll read the question again. How would you improve public safety and emergency services?
So to echo one of Ryan's comments, I would go talk to them. I would want to talk to the police board, talk to the medical services team, and just see what can we do to improve. Is it work conditions? Is it staffing shortages? What is needed? What would make things easier? What would make things more efficient? Is it more money? Obviously. I think we have, as I mentioned in my intro, I think we do have services here that are envied by a lot of places. I know we do. And I work very closely with the police service, but certainly there's always room for improvements there.
Thanks, Dustin. More of an accountability question next. How will you ensure transparency and keeping residents informed about council decisions? So I'll read it again. How will you ensure transparency and keep residents informed about council's decisions? Anyone interested in answering that question? Thank you. Pam, you get to go first this time.
Well, like I said in my speech, I'm always will be willing and ready to bend the ear, and if somebody has something they want to talk about, I will be there to listen, and if they have a question about a decision, I will talk about the process. I know that there is a lot of detail and work that goes into a decision and creating policy within city council, so I would just talk about some of the process that went into it, but my ear and my time, I would always make the time.
Thank you. Ryan, I believe you're next.
All right. Yeah, I think the city already has made a lot of steps in that direction in keeping things transparent. You can watch all of the council meetings online. So if there is ever any question about, a particular decision, you can go back and watch that. Certainly all of the councilors' emails are on the website, and so you can talk to any of them. I work with seniors, and so certainly they'll keep me accountable. They seem to know how to find me. No, I think that's the biggest part of it is just, is being available, and I think that the resources are there for people to find out if they're interested.
Thank you. Dustin, do you want me to read the question again?
Sure.
How will you ensure transparency and keeping residents informed about council's decisions?
So I think, yeah, the city does a good job of that. Meeting agendas are online, so we can always look in advance to see what's going to be included in that council meeting. The meetings are live streamed and also available afterwards. And then the other thing is we can attend meetings. So if there's a question or if we have, we're wondering about, a hearing that's coming up or something like that, we can always attend the meeting and see for ourselves. And then obviously word of mouth and social media is an effective tool. If there's something that we are passionate about, and we can just use social media to get it out to our audience.
Thanks, Dustin. Okay. Just try to reword this question here a bit. Questions about the recent vital statistics report that was released by the Winkler Foundation. What were your main takeaways from that vital statistic report? And what do you think the number one priority should be based on that report? So what were your main takeaways from the vital statistics report, and what would be your number one priority? Ryan and Dustin want to answer? Dustin, I think it's your turn to go first.
So for me, it was nice to see our overall score was a B right across the board. I guess I would look at the areas that scored a little bit lower, which one of them being education. So although education is usually provincially funded, there is a lot of work that goes on at a municipal level to work with the school division, to work with the Department of Education, just to see what exactly is needed, what can we do to help get better results there, and to make it a little bit easier for the schools to function properly.
Thanks, Dustin. Ryan?
Yeah, I think to echo what Dustin was saying, certainly I think what stood out to me was the post-secondary education part. How can we work with the school division and the Ministry of Education to make some things available in this area that, I know with my own daughter, she ended up having to go to Calgary because she wanted to go to Red River, but the program that she wanted wasn't available here. The thing that always stands out to me, obviously, is the affordable housing, the vacancy rate, vacancy rate of 0.6% in Winkler. I see that every day within the Buhler Active Living Center. And then also the rising demand at the food cupboard, when you look at basically doubling in the 5 years. So from 2018, 418 active households to 822. Also look at the wait list at Central Station as well for affordable housing. So.
Yeah. Thanks, Ryan. Okay, let's shift over to some recreation questions. Winkler is the largest city in Manitoba without an indoor pool, limiting swimming opportunities into the summer months. What's your views on prioritizing and planning for the construction of such a facility in the future? If you want to answer, please put your card up. And I think we're up to you, Ryan, to start.
Yeah, my understanding is that Mayor Henry wanted to pay for it himself, and so I think that's probably the first step, is just digging into his pockets. No, I think, when we looked at it the last time, I forget exactly the exact numbers, but it was somewhere around a $47 million project to do the indoor swimming part. I think that we have a lot of expensive infrastructure that we're working through right now. Dustin mentioned some of the items there, the wastewater treatment, water treatment, and all of those types of things. I think we have to kind of get through those pieces before we start taking on another huge project. Again, that's something that all three levels of government is going to have to be involved in. When you look at something that expensive, that's obviously not something that we can afford by ourselves. And so maybe it's something that we can look at, across our region. Maybe we involve RMS Stanley, Morden, and I guess my time's out. So
Dustin.
Could you read
You're
the
up.
question again?
Yep. Winkler is the largest city in Manitoba without an indoor pool, limiting swimming opportunities to the summer months. What are your views on prioritizing and planning for the construction of such a facility in the future?
My view would be similar. I don't think it should be a high priority. We do have a lot of expensive projects on the go, important projects on the go. With that being said, maybe this is something we could add to a community survey and just see, maybe more people feel it's very important than I personally think it is. But at this time, I don't see that being a feasible option.
Thanks, Dustin. Pam?
My view is a little bit different. I do believe in being fiscally responsible and being very careful with how we spend, or how taxpayers' money is spent. However, I do think that a facility like an indoor pool would be a huge advantage for Winkler and its citizens, and would draw many new people to the community professionals. I think that is one of the gaps that exists right now, and I think with the innovative thinkers that we have here with finding ways to make projects work, and think that that is something that if we brainstorm and work hard on, I think that we could make it happen sooner than later.
Thank you, Pam. Okay, let's switch back to some economic development questions. How do you plan to address local employment needs and support workforce development? How do you plan to address local employment needs and support workforce development? I'll give you a minute to think about that. How do you plan to address local employment needs and support workforce development? Okay, Ryan and Dustin have their cards up, and Dustin, it's your turn to start.
So I think the first thing I would want to do is reach out to see what those needs are. We can't fix issues that we don't know exist. And again, being a counselor, I think it's important to be listening more than we're speaking. So I would want to reach out, maybe send out a survey or send out something to the businesses and just have an open concept, and let us know what is needed, what kind of issues are you facing, what can we do to help you out, and take it from there and just work with them.
Thanks, Dustin. Ryan, go ahead.
yeah, I agree with Dustin on that. It's something that we need to talk to our local business leaders. I think there's pieces, especially the workforce development. I think of organizations like the Chamber that do some of the lunch and learns that develop some of the skills that or give the opportunity for some of the skill development. We also have a wonderful organization with regional connections that's able to really develop like the English language and some of the things that are holding people back from getting into the workforce. So certainly working with them as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Ryan. A little bit around the environment. Let's jump into that. What plans do you have for making Winkler a more sustainable and eco-friendly community? What plans do you have for making Winkler a more sustainable and eco-friendly community? Give that some thought and put your cards up if you're willing to speak on that. What plans do you have for making Winkler a more sustainable and eco-friendly community? Anyone interested in answering? Dustin, Ryan? Ryan, you're up to bat.
Yeah, I think that's something where, again, that's not a forte of mine. So I think that reaching out to people that are more versed in those types of things would be important. Listening to people, where do we want to go with this? What things are out there? What do we need to do? Yeah, that would be kind of my answer on that. Is I would need to talk to the community and talk to people who are more well versed than I am.
Pam, you can go next.
I also don't have a sound plan on this, but it's a definite interest of mine, and I think I look at the fact that we all live in a watershed, and I think that if we continue to educate on these things and focus on recycling and taking care of even our local waterways, because that's also a huge thing. And we have our Discovery Nature Sanctuary here in Winkler, which has, I think, also been teaching our young people about the environment and sustaining our natural ecosystem. So I think continue to do more of that.
Perfect, thank you. Dustin, go ahead.
I think one of the things is obviously looking at even city facilities. So like with the arena renovation happening right now, I'm sure, I don't know, but I would think that, things like that would be thought of. Continuing to work with residents on recycling, composting, the new public transit, demo that's coming out obviously helps look at being more eco-friendly. Might reduce the number of vehicles out and stuff like that. And I think just continuing to, look at programs like that and making sure that they're well supported. And yeah, that's actually all I got.
Thanks, Dustin. Okay, a question on community. What is your approach for enhancing community programs, especially for youth, seniors, and families? So what's your approach or ideas to enhancing community programs, especially youth, seniors, and families? What is your approach to enhancing community programs? What is your approach or ideas to enhancing community programs for youth, seniors, and families? Okay, we all want to answer. I think it's your turn to go first, Pam.
I'll take this as an opportunity to expand on my, endorsement of discussing about an indoor pool for the city. As I've been talking to people, I heard from a variety of individuals in Winkler that would love to see a facility such as an indoor pool. An older gentleman who's never learned how to swim, who said he would love a facility like that to learn how to swim. A young family who would love indoor pool to be able to take their kids to any time of the year. And I see that as a way to keep people healthy, in order to go do aerobics in the water, any kind of activity. So I think that would be a great way for families to get out. Just figured I'd take that as a way to expand a little bit more, and that's one way, absolutely.
Perfect, thanks, Pam. Ryan, you're next.
Yeah, so at the Buehler Center, we have the Winkler Senior Center that is actually in our building. So they also run a number of programs in their building for seniors. So when I look at, there's certain days where floor curling, floor shuffling, line dancing, all kinds of different things. There's some pickleball that goes on there. So there's lots of opportunities for people to kind of get out and get involved there. I know the city is also moving forward with a new pickleball facility, I'm sure there's different ways that can be utilized as well. So I think there's things in the community already, and but I think that certainly, there's always ways to enhance things, and I'm open to people's ideas and their feedback.
Thanks, Ryan. Dustin?
I would, work with the existing programs. Winkler Family Resource Center jumps out. They do a lot of good work with families. The Senior Center, as mentioned, just to kind of get feedback of, what's working well, what can we do? Do you need some supports, some advertising or monetary donations, whatever it is, and just kind of make sure that those programs are all well supported so that our seniors and our families are well looked after.
Thanks, Dustin. Okay, we got a question in from online viewers. This is around healthcare. Many healthcare workers work weekends, evenings, and night shifts. How do you plan to support their childcare needs? I'll read that again. Many healthcare workers work weekends, evenings, and night shifts. How do you plan to support their childcare needs? Question around childcare. Okay, Ryan's the only one that wants to answer, so you get to go first.
Perfect. Love it. I think obviously childcare has been an issue for a long time. I think we've started to make a dent in it with the new schools that came up and the childcare pieces that are attached to those schools. I think that, it seems to make a lot of sense to look at having childcare attached to schools, especially for mom and dad that are dropping their kids off, going to work early, having to drop their kids off and make their way through. So, it's working with, I think at that point, working with the Ministry of Education to support maybe retrofitting some of our other schools that don't have programs like that, to add childcare spaces onto other schools.
Thanks, Ryan. Let's talk about diversity and inclusion. What steps would you take to build community cohesion and celebrate Winkler's cultural diversity? What steps would you take to build community cohesion and celebrate Winkler's cultural diversity? So a question around culture and diversity there and bringing the community together. Ryan and Dustin, you guys want to answer? Dustin, why don't you go ahead?
So I think diversity is definitely an amazing thing to have, and we see lots of it. A lot of the events or the going on don't necessarily need to be related to city council or necessarily be involved. But at the same time, I think it's good that everyone feels that they can, share their own opinions, get together, have an event, whatever that looks like, and to be able to do so without feeling that it's goes against the beliefs of city. And like I say, I think everyone should be able to do their own thing, not necessarily have city council be involved with it, but just run their own event just like we see all the time.
Thanks, Dustin. Ryan?
Yeah, I think, when you look at the community, there's obviously a number of cultures and countries that are represented in our community. I read in the vital signs that Winkler is actually the second most diverse community in Canada. And so, I think we've started to do some things, when you look at things like the Culture Fest and, things like that. I think certainly that's wonderful. I'm glad that people, are creating their events, creating their celebrating their culture in the way, and I think that's wonderful.
Thanks, Ryan. Okay, another question from the online viewers. Do you believe K-12 education is within your mandate as a counselor? A tricky question there. Do you believe K-12 education is within your mandate as a counselor? Who wants to tackle? We all want to tackle that one. Perfect. Where are we up to? I think Dustin, I think you went first last time. That means I think we're up to Ryan.
Okay. I think, when you look at, education and the education system within the province of Manitoba, within the city here, really the K-12 education is under the umbrella of the school divisions and the Ministry of Education. And so certainly we can advocate for things, but I think that, for the most part, we would leave things up to the school division to make sure that people are educated well.
Thanks, Ryan. Dustin?
So the way things stand right now, I don't feel that it is, the mandate of a city councillor. It is mostly Manitoba government who would look after the school divisions and the school boards who help administrate that. And that's not to say that the city shouldn't be involved at all or have no say, but for the most part, I think that falls under the Manitoba umbrella.
Thanks, Dustin. Pam, go ahead.
We have a local elected school board, and that is under their mandate to look after local K-8 or K-12 public schools, and there is always room for collaboration if the school board or school division needs to reach out. I think that, like any citizen, as a counselor, be here to listen and support our local school board and school division if they need. And beyond that, it is more in the provincial hands. And but we also do have a need for maybe adult ed. That could also be something that council, I'm not sure if that falls under the purview of, but we could definitely support programs that could draw more opportunities to Winkler for higher learning.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Shifting here a little bit to some forward thinking and dreaming. Question is, outside of ongoing municipal projects, what's the next major development that Winkler needs? So I'll read it again. Outside of ongoing municipal projects, what's the next major development that Winkler needs? So a little bit of thinking ahead and dreaming. Who would like to answer? Put up your card if you'd like to answer that question. Outside of ongoing municipal projects, what's the next major development that Winkler needs? Okay, Ryan and Dustin. Dustin, I think it's your turn to start, and then we'll go over to Ryan.
So I would just look at the strategic plan that just came out about a month ago. Goal number 1 was driving economic growth through innovation. Number 2 was infrastructure for a growing community, and number 3 was strengthening regional collaboration. So I think all of those could kind of fall together. What exactly does that look like? Again, we would need to know what's needed. I think we would need to reach out and just see what exactly is needed for us to move forward with some of these ideas. What does this look like? What is the ideal world in your eyes? And just get some feedback and continue to work to have these things come to fruition.
Thanks, Dustin. Ryan?
Yeah, he stole my answer. No, exactly. I think, when we look at this strategic plan for the community of Winkler, exactly like Dustin said, there's certain goals that we have. I think once we can kind of clear the deck with some of these other bigger projects, certainly, let's listen to the feedback of the community and let's talk and see what the community wants for our next big project.
Thanks, Ryan. Okay, let's go back to some diversity and inclusion questions. How will you ensure that the voices of diverse groups are heard and represented in decision-making? So I'll read it again. How will you ensure that the voices of diverse groups are heard and represented in decision-making? So give that some thought and let me know if you want to answer that. How will you ensure that the voices of diverse groups are heard and represented in decision-making? So a question around including diverse groups. Dustin and Ryan want to answer? Pam wants to answer? Okay. Pam, I'll let you start.
I would just ensure that when there's events such as budget planning, that all groups are aware that these events are happening, and that that there's maybe an extra push to get notification out, so that when there are public meetings, that that everybody, all citizens, can attend.
Thanks, Pam. Ryan?
I think it's intentional about building intentional relationships with diverse communities. If we're, one of the more diverse communities in Winkler, in the country, it's kind of getting out of our bubble, kind of, being intentional about creating relationships with different diverse groups and taking their feedback back from those conversations.
Thanks, Ryan. Dustin?
So for myself, I think the easiest way to make sure that they're heard is to make sure that all voices are heard. Again, it's more about listening, hearing what people have to say, whether it's a diverse group or whether it's anybody else. I think it's important to get feedback as a councillor, as city administration as a whole, for everyone who's willing to, put their opinions forward and have their voices heard. I think we need to make sure everybody is heard, and keep that in mind when we're making our decisions.
Thanks, Dustin. Okay, question around property taxes. What's your stance on property taxes, and how will you ensure fair rates for residents and businesses? So I'll read it again. What is your stance on property taxes, and how will you ensure fair rates for residents and businesses? So a question about property taxes and fair rates. Ryan and Dustin want to answer? I think it's your turn to start.
Okay, sounds good. I, like most people, don't enjoy going to the end of August and paying my property tax. But I think, when we want the services, when we want, the indoor pool, when we want the infrastructure, the wastewater treatment, all of these types of projects, I think it's staging those projects in such a way that we don't have to raise taxes significantly. When we talk about the asset management program that the city of Winkler has started and begun, I think it's managing all the assets well. It's basically doing the business of the city and managing it well, and that will help to keep property taxes stable.
Thanks, Ryan. Dustin, the floor is yours.
So my stance on it, property tax is what's used to pay for all the city-run services that we get. How to make it, keep it stable and keep it fair. Obviously, we just want to look at all the different departments, make sure that we're spending the money wisely, and making choices, obviously part of budget planning, and ensuring all the ongoing costs are going as planned, And as long as we continue to look after that money that way, then we're doing the best job that we can to keep it as stable and affordable as possible for our city ratepayers.
Thanks, Dustin. Okay, let's bring it back to a little bit talking about yourself. What specific skills or experiences do you bring that make you an ideal candidate? So, what specific skills or experiences do you bring that make you an ideal candidate? Ryan and Dustin want to answer? Dustin, I believe it's your turn to go first.
That's a great question. Experiences, I've served on a couple of boards and currently are still serving on some. It gets the flow of how things run, even though it's a much smaller scale, but same process is used, and I really enjoy it. So that's also part of it, is enjoying what you do, not feeling like you're forced to go. And skills, I mean, I feel like I'm pretty approachable. I love talking to people. It's a lot of fun, and would put in the time, the effort, time to commit to something and coming at it and just putting the work in to make sure that things are getting done that are expected of us.
Thanks, Dustin. Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, I think for myself, it's certainly my background in accounting, being the treasurer on numerous boards, which I've talked about already. I think that certainly those skills. I think it's also the fact that during my time with Eden, during my time on some of these boards, I've also had to relate with the different government departments. And so when you look at health, when you look at Southern Health, when you I've negotiated with Southern Health, with Manitoba Health, with health and housing, homelessness and housing, and families. So I've dealt with a lot of these government departments and been able to negotiate services and funding for the boards that I was working on. So I think that's a big piece of it as well.
Thanks, Ryan. Okay, you touched on what I was going to ask for my next question. What steps would you take to ensure affordable housing is available to all residents? So a question around affordable housing there. What steps would you take to ensure affordable housing is available to all residents? Dustin and Ryan want to answer. Ryan, you can lead us off on this one.
Yeah, and I think, so in the community here, obviously we have Central Community Homes that does kind of truly affordable housing. We also have Eden Healthcare Services, Eden Residential Care Services, that does some affordable housing. Affordable housing takes a while to get going. When you're looking for grants, when you're looking to deal with Manitoba housing, certainly we have a few projects that are kind of on the back burner, but basically it's leveraging the relationships that we've created with Manitoba Housing. I've worked with them for over 15 years, partnering with them on a number of different projects, and so it's using those relationships to get things moving.
Thanks, Ryan. Dustin, go ahead.
Now who's stealing answers? No, I totally agree with that. I echo that. Working with the groups that are already in place. I know when Central Station took over the affordable housing here in town, I heard great reviews compared to when it was outside, run from people outside. And just keeping those programs going, the more places we can put up, the more programs that we have, like the Head Start to a Home, where people can, get in a house for the first time with a bit of assistance from the city and the construction company, all that. Keeping those programs going. To answer the question of guaranteeing everybody has, I don't think we can do that. I'd hate to make a promise I can't keep, but we sure can try to keep looking at programs like that.
Thanks, Dustin. Okay, question more around how you're gonna be, what you're gonna do while you're in office. What approach will you take to engage with the community and gather public input? So a question around how you're gonna engage with your constituents. What approach will you take to engage with the community and gather public input? If you want to answer, put your card up. Ryan, do you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, so like I mentioned, I work at Bueller Active Living Center, and so certainly there's a large community of seniors that meet every day for coffee. They're usually a good barometer of what's going on and what's not working well, and so there's things like that. Yeah, I'm very approachable. I love to listen, and so people, if they have issues, I expect that certainly they can reach out to me. Yeah, I would think we try to be intentional about putting myself out there. So,
Thanks, Ryan. Dustin?
Yeah, just be approachable, be willing to listen. Again, it goes back to listening, more listening than talking. The contact info of the counselors is on the city website. Give me a call, send me an email. I'd love to hear what people are thinking, the struggles they're going through, and just willing to take that feedback, obviously, and bring it back to city council. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thanks, Dustin. Pam?
Well, I like to strike up a conversation with anyone, anywhere, so I will just continue to do that and do what I do. I just like to talk to people and engage with people wherever I go, and sometimes it's a little embarrassing for my kids because I just start talking to strangers about anything and everything, so I'll be intentional and just keep doing what I do, and if I'm elected as a counselor, I'll just invite people to talk to me about anything.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, a couple questions have come in from the online viewers. Question around development in Winkler. How will you ensure that everyone has the same treatment when it comes to development of land around Winkler? Kind of the idea of keeping it fair for everyone. So how will you ensure that everyone has the same treatment when it comes to development of land around Winkler? Give you a minute to think about that, and you can let me know if you want to answer. How will you ensure that everyone has the same treatment when it comes to development of land around Winkler? Okay, Dustin and Ryan want to answer? Dustin, you get to go first this time.
Yeah, so I think some of those processes are in place. As an individual counselor, I wouldn't necessarily have the power to change that, but I think the zoning requirements are there. So we have the different areas of the city. They all kind of have their plans already in terms of what's allowed there. And I think just to keep it fair, that we make sure that people stay within those, they're coloring within the lines, and that if, there are plans that are outside of that we try and work with them, and just to see if we can bring that a little bit closer to what the plan was originated for. And obviously that's done through, conditional hearings and variances and all that stuff. But the plans are there for that, and just keep following that so that we don't get outside of that.
Thanks, Dustin. Pam, you've got your card up now. Why don't you go ahead and answer?
Yeah, I would have to agree with what Dustin said. There's plans and bylaws in place, and for each and every situation, there's an opportunity for development and developers to apply for a variation on different projects. So, but definitely follow the bylaws that have been put in place. There's been careful planning and consideration for why it's in place. So just follow the procedures and plans that have been laid out.
Thanks, Pam. Ryan, the last word on this one.
Perfect. Yeah, I think, we have, as has been said, we have bylaws and we have policies. I think the biggest part is making sure that everybody follows from the same rule book, and all the rules are applied in the same way. And so I think that, like I say, we have policies for a reason. We have bylaw officers, and we have hearings and different things. So as long as everybody's treated the same, it should, or as long as the policies are all applied the same, that should work.
Perfect. Okay. Got a two-part question here. So I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to give everybody an extra 30 seconds to answer. So if the timer wants to take that into consideration. Does that work? Good. Okay. So you got a minute and a half to answer this question. How closely should we work with our regional neighbors to get projects done? And does your answer change if that means it doesn't get built in Winkler? So kind of two questions, which is why I'm giving you some extra time. How closely should we work with our regional neighbors to get projects done? And does your answer change if that means it doesn't get built in Winkler? Let's give that some thought. Let me know if you want to answer. I'll read it one more time. How closely should we work with our regional neighbors to get projects done? And does your answer change if that means it doesn't get built in Winkler? Okay, everybody's got their card up. So we'll give you an extra 30 seconds. So you got a minute and a half to answer. Pam, you can start.
I think it's very important to work closely with our neighbors. There's already wonderful relationships, and it's great to work together. Things get done more efficiently, and I think if it's a project that is going to enhance Winkler and the region, I don't think that, no, my answer does not change. We should still work closely with our neighbors, and if it's a project that hinges on whether it'll be in Winkler, we should still work with our neighbors. So that's my answer.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Ryan?
Yeah, I think when we look at, Winkler, Stanley, Rhineland, Morden, all of these different areas that are right close around us, I think there's tremendous economic might when we look at all of our neighbors. And so, I think it's been said, if we can ever figure out how to work together, that would be something to watch out for. And so I think that would come with these kinds of projects as well. I think that, if for instance, an indoor pool would be built in the arm of Stanley or close to Henry's house, I think that would be fine. I would certainly be in supportive of that if all of us are sharing the cost of some of these huge projects. I think, we are already working together on our wastewater treatment. We're already working together on other projects. I know that certainly the councils and the mayors meet regularly already. So I think that it's kind of a natural offshoot of that. So if if a major project gets built outside of Winkler, but benefits the citizens of Winkler, I look at the recreation activities and things that we have in Winkler that our neighbors enjoy. I think it works both ways. So.
Thanks, Ryan. Dustin, go ahead.
I also believe that is very important. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, there's efficiencies to be found, money savings to be found. The more things that we can do together with our neighbors, and we are already doing, MSTW, the regional wastewater, emergency services works together with our neighbors regularly, things like that. It's good examples of how we can come together as neighbors, and even though we are different communities, still have the end goal be the same. Does it change if it's not in Winkler? Not really. As long as, again, as it's a benefit to the residents of Winkler, I think it's important, and I think our ratepayers would also find it important, knowing they're getting this service likely at a reduced rate than if we were all doing our own thing separately.
Okay, thanks, Dustin. Okay, now here's an interesting question. There are days when Winkler smells absolutely terrible outside. Jeez. I've been told that this is due to pig barns in the surrounding area. What do you believe is the role of the City Council in regulating these incidents and ensuring that we continue to enjoy our community outside? So, question around smell outside, pig barns in the local area. Who wants to touch that? Just Dustin? All right, have at her.
My first comment would be, do you ever drive to Morden? Because it probably smells worse. But all jokes aside, the things that are happening outside of city limits, unfortunately, we wouldn't have a huge factor in. We would have to work with the RMs, but typically those things are grandfathered in. Obviously, all we can do is work on what's happening going forward and try and work with our neighbors.
Thanks, Dustin. Okay, another question that came in from online. We've touched on this a little bit, but I'm going to ask it anyways. How will you get young people involved and knowing what's going on in the city? So I think they're driving around kind of getting involved in local politics and their voice at this table here where you guys are sitting. So how will you get young people involved and knowing or educating them on what's going on in the city? Ryan, Dustin, Pam, all three of you want to answer? That's great. Ryan, I think it's your turn to start.
Yeah, I think that's where, when I look at what the chamber does, they have representatives from each of the high schools that sit in on their meetings, and it's amazing how it's quite interesting to hear kind of the feedback that we get from the students as they're kind of taking in. Sometimes the meetings weren't as maybe as formal as we would like them to be, but certainly I think there's an education part of it there. So certainly maybe it's looking to our school system, having a rep sit on council, take in some of the meetings. Certainly the meetings are available online for people to look at or to watch online. So things like that.
Dustin, go ahead.
Yeah, a few things. I think it is important for the youth to become involved and to be informed. Social media, I think, would play a big part. It's pretty important in the younger generation. The youth council member program, I know we have had one here some years, and I think that's a nice way to get in touch with what's happening in the schools and vice versa, them coming here. Sending information to the schools, obviously, however they want to distribute that, whether it's at an assembly or even just, brochures and stuff of things that are going on. And lastly, if all of that doesn't work, I would just say put a sign on Main Street, because one of them will see it.
Thanks, Dustin. Pam, you get the final word on this one.
Well, I love when my girls talk about learning about local politics in class at school, and they've been talking about the local election in school, so it's kind of fun. But I would definitely say I think it would be a great idea to even go to the school, and Dustin said, assembly, and I think we could maybe arrange to see if a representative of our or the city council could go to assemblies and introduce themselves and to the students, and maybe highlight a few things that are going on in the city and open the floor to some questions, maybe 5 minutes during an assembly, and just show up in ways like that.
Perfect. Thanks, Pam. Okay. Moving over to the South Central Regional Library. So, question goes, the South Central Regional Library's mission is to provide access to resources to meet the educational, cultural, information, and leisure time needs of citizens of all ages and backgrounds. The library strives to foster a lifelong interest in reading. As Winkler City Council holds a position on the library board, what do you see as City's Council role in helping further that mission? That was a long question, I'll read it again. South Central Regional Library's mission is to provide access to resources to meet the educational, cultural, informational, and leisure time needs of citizens of all ages and backgrounds. The library strives to foster a lifelong interest in reading. As City Council holds a position on the library board, what do you see as City's Council role in helping further that mission? I'll give you a minute to gather your thoughts and let me know if you want to answer. Dustin and Ryan. Dustin, I think you're good to go first this time.
Okay. I think City Council's role should be exactly as it has been, have a member on the board, be engaged with what's going on there. Things are constantly evolving. The library has changed tremendously over the last couple decades. Just kind of keeping track of what items they need. Obviously, we fund the libraries, and just keep track of, like what technology is coming out, new books, like all those different things. Just be very involved because it is a busy spot. It's important for all generations, from the youth right up to seniors. It's a busy place, lots of events going on, lots of engagement there, and just making sure we keep in touch with what they're needing from us.
Thanks, Dustin. Ryan?
Yeah, I think that exactly like Dustin said, I think, certainly there's a role for City Council as we are funding a portion of their budget. There's a role for Council to, make sure that there's accountability there for the funds that we are investing in the library and in our youth and in our community that way. So I think that, certainly having a representative on that board is important. And I think that, they can advocate for certain, if all of a sudden there is certain equipment, like Dustin was saying, that is needed, they can advocate for that. But, yeah.
Thanks, Ryan. Okay, got a question on healthcare. What's your stance on improving healthcare accessibility and mental health support in our local area? So what is your stance on improving healthcare accessibility and mental health support in the area? I'll give you a minute to think about that and let me know if you want to answer. Dustin and Ryan. Ryan, you get to kick it off.
Yeah, so having worked at Eden Healthcare Services for over 10 years, I realized that there's never enough mental health resources for those that need it. When I look at, when I look specifically at pathways, when I look at the amount of social workers that they have, their wait lists are long and ever expanding, and so there obviously needs to be investment from the provincial and federal government into mental health as a whole. I think that there's, I think as there would be as we would advocate for investment from those particular governments, that would impact the wait lists and the wait times the most. So certainly that's something I'm very familiar with.
Thanks, Ryan. Dustin?
Yeah, my stance on it is that it is very important. It's important we continue to support the groups that are already working, that we engage with the experts in the field to see what more can be done. What does that look like? How do we get that started? And just continue to work with them, as I do feel that's a very important aspect of our community.
Thanks, Dustin. Another question. Around our neighbors. Just more of a generic question. Some of you touched on this, which probably drove the question. How can we work better with our neighbors? Just kind of a pretty high overarching questions, but how can we work better with our neighbors? Arm of Stanley, City of Morden, that kind of thing. Ryan and Dustin. Where's my list? Ryan, Dustin, it is your turn.
So work better, just continued partnerships, lots of engagements with them, lots of communication, having the city officials, elected officials meeting with our neighbors, seeing what types of things we can attack together. Again, there's savings to be had if we can work with our neighbors and just figure out how that looks, and obviously getting in the engagement of the ratepayers as well as our neighbors, just to see what types of projects we can work on together.
Thanks, Dustin. Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's, again, continuing to build those intentional relationships with our neighbors in our surrounding communities. And so I know, like I mentioned, I know the mayors meet fairly regularly. I know that Jody, Terry, and Nicole meet fairly regularly. Certainly the councils meet, I think it's 3 times a year together or something like that. I'm not sure exactly on that, but I think that work is starting, but I think there's still a lot of work to do there. So I think just building intentional relationships with our neighbors.
Thanks, Ryan. All right. Okay. More of a question about yourself. Tell me a bit, who are your mentors and what do you value in a leader? So you can choose to answer both or one of the 2 questions in there. Who are your mentors and what do you value in a leader? Dustin and Ryan want to answer? Ryan, it's your turn to go first.
Okay. So obviously my parents, my parents, my in-laws, they've obviously been massive influences in my life. And I think of, other leaders that I've worked with. I think of people like Alvin Cron, who helped get me my first job at Saputo. Put a lot of energy into me. Dave Penner there as well. I think of somebody like James Friesen, who I worked with very closely at Eden Healthcare Services. We're almost like an old married couple anymore. So, certainly I value people like that. I think of Earl Reimer. I think of Albert Hyde. I think of, there's been so many people that have spent the time and put the energy into molding me in the way that I am. So I gotta quit.
Thanks, Ryan. Dustin, go ahead.
Can you just repeat the question for me, please?
Yep, I sure can. Who are your mentors? Who are your mentors? And what do you value in a leader?
So yeah, mentors for me would definitely be my family. I'm not gonna list individual members because then I'll get razz from the ones I miss. But my family, close group of friends, there for me and always there to support me during these, campaigns and many other events. What I look for in a leader, I think people who are driven, people who are, able and willing to listen, to put the time in, to show they really care about the task at hand. So whether that be a boss or whatever the case is, and I think those are the most important attributes for a good leader.
Thanks, Dustin. Another question that came in on the chat. I'm going to reword it a little bit here. It's a question about youth and young adults, and how would you work? Sorry guys, I'm going to reread it. It's a little confusing the way it's been asked. It's a question regarding youth, young adults, community involvement and economic development. And gist of the question is, how do you see council working with youth and young adults with respect to community involvement and economic development? So how do you see council working with youth and young adults and getting them involved in community and economic development? Okay. Pam, I'm going to let you start us off.
I think by getting into the schools more and introducing council to our local young people in that way would be a good way to start. And then perhaps having a town hall but just invite the youth to it and maybe just talk to have a presentation with the youth and kind of open up the door for conversation that way to build a relationship and a starting point that way to just kind of get the conversation rolling, what's important to them and how they would like to be involved and what kind of interests they have and kind of go from there as a starting point and see what kind of roles that they would like to tackle in economic development and yeah.
Okay. Ryan, you're up.
All right, so a couple things that come to mind. Again, I'll pick on the chamber. We do have, so the chamber has been invited into some of the business programs from time to time to judge some of the projects that have come through, and it's amazing to see the creativity, the entrepreneurship, the ideas that our young people already have, and so it's finding those types of opportunities to connect with the youth. Another idea is basically kind of normalizing the idea that council is approachable, but whether you go, from time to time you go to the different schools, so that they see counselors and maybe, like was said before, perhaps there's an assembly every so often or some kind of a thing in the school that you can get involved with. So I think there's lots of ways for us to kind of make council a little bit more approachable and that way.
Thanks, Ryan. Dustin?
Yeah, I think obviously super important to be involved with the youth. I think a few things mentioned already. Chamber of Commerce working with scholarships, working with the youth in different ways. The career days that they have in the high schools are good places to go and engage with them. Looking at different occupations, post-secondary options, things like that. Obviously, it'd be nice to have a little bit more of that close to home as well. But yeah, just going into the schools, getting engaged, hearing what ideas they have, and making them aware of different grant options or different ideas that they can use to get some small businesses started and stuff like that.
Thanks, Dustin. Okay. I'm going to switch back to some infrastructure, to a infrastructure question. How will you address current and future infrastructure needs, such as roads, public transportation, and utilities? So, pretty broad question there, wide open to what how you want to answer that. How will you address current and future infrastructure needs, such as roads, public transportation, and utilities? So you can touch on any of those items there. Give you a chance to think about that. Dustin and Ryan. Dustin, I think it's your turn to start.
I think an important aspect of that would be the asset management plan that the city has been working on and has, I think, mostly completed. That gives us a lot of the information in terms of when things will need to be replaced, making sure that we have money to do that, that we're financially planning all that stuff well in advance. And obviously, there's going to be changes, so things that will be evolving here in the next 2, 5, or 10 years, we'll look at those and add those to the plan. But I think using that plan to really keep track of where things are at and making sure that we are fiscally responsible to keep all those things up to date as needed.
Thanks, Dustin. Ryan?
Yeah, exactly. I think making sure that we're fiscally responsible using the asset management plan, basically everything that Dustin said already. I will kind of focus in on the public transit part. I know that it's rolling out in the next couple of weeks. I'm very interested to see what the uptake is on the public transit option that we have, and looking back for the feedback on how it works, what we need to improve, and all of that. Because I think that, again, working where I work, there's lots of seniors, lots of other people that don't have vehicles. A lot of people don't have access to vehicles, and so if we're able to use the public transportation the way it's intended, it really opens up life for a lot of people in our community. When you look at single vehicle families, and the fact that it also goes to the hospital. That's a huge thing as well, being able to get there and back. So.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions from the chat? Okay. Well, I think I've got one question that I've been saving to the end.
Oh boy.
Unless there's some questions that have come in.
I think that any questions that aren't answered here today, we can, you can address them at your will. A lot of them are around indoor pools still, issues like that.
Okay.
But you can go ahead with your.
Okay, yeah, I think we've covered the indoor pools. We're going to Henry's place.
Yep.
Okay,
Love it.
my last question. I'll give you a chance to think about this. What impact would you like to have on the future of Winkler if you were elected to the city council? What impact would you like to have on the future of Winkler if you were elected to city council? Give you a minute to gather your thoughts on that one. What impact would you like to have on the future of Winkler if elected to City Council? Okay, you guys are ready to answer? And then you're off the hook for the evening. All right, we're gonna start with Dustin, then go to Pam, and then go to Ryan. Lead us off.
So I think for myself, I would like to be able to say that I accomplished the tasks that were put forward. As an individual, as a group, as a city council, obviously, I'm just one voice and one vote, but it would be nice to say that we had a plan, we had the list of our goals, and we were able to, accomplish as many of them as possible. And in that time, we were accepting of all the different roadblocks that were there, but we were able to get the work done when we needed to, and in a fiscally responsible and organized manner.
Thanks, Dustin. Pam?
Yes, I just want to always make sure that the task at hand is completed, but I just want to, if elected, I would want to contribute in a fair, kind way, and just be a counselor with the servant heart, and just act with integrity and always just work for the best of the community and everything.
Thank you. Ryan?
Yeah, basically, I'd like to leave it better than I found it. So I think that working towards the projects that that the city needs, working towards for myself, making sure that I'm listening, gathering the feedback of the community, being approachable, all of the things that we've all said that we're going to do. I think that's important. But basically, I would want to be known, or want it to be that I've made an impact and done what I said I would do.
Thanks, Ryan. All right. Thank you for all being here tonight, people online and people here in the audience. It's been a valuable opportunity to hear directly from candidates and to talk about what matters to our community. And to the candidates, thank you for stepping up, sharing your ideas, and being part of this important conversation. Thank you for your questions, to all the people online and everyone's time. Appreciate that. Last thing, remember to vote on December 12th.